welcome back to another episode of Me and My Health Up. I'm your host, Anthony Hartcher, a clinical nutritionist and lifestyle medicine specialist. And we're fast approaching the end of the year. So this is an end of the year episode for you. It's essentially enabling you to reflect on 2022 and then look forward to 2023. I'm going to be sharing with you some tips to how to make 2023 a success for you. So the title of this podcast is The Resolution Solution, Launch into a Successful 2023. So yes, let's get into it. So how come? Why do people not achieve what they set out to achieve? So we're going to be covering that. But before we rip into the episode and share these great tips with you, I want to ask you whether this episode is for you. So I want to ask you the question, do you want to achieve success in 2023? So if you're not looking to achieve success, then maybe this is not for you. But if you're wanting more success in 2023 than what you achieved in 2022, then this is certainly the episode for you. And also I want you to ask yourself, are you looking to do it now or tomorrow? If you're looking to do it now, this is the episode for you. Tomorrow is always that, I'll get around to doing it tomorrow, and it never starts. So it's for those that really want to make a difference and really excel in 2023. This is the episode for them. And it's essentially a year to be you. So let's be the best version of you. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this episode, is how you can become the best version of you. Not someone else, the best version of you. It's also for those that want to empower themselves. So it's essentially those that want to educate themselves in this space of health and wellness and essentially set goals around improving their health and empowering themselves. And essentially these tips you can apply across the board in all aspects of life. So you can apply them to relationships, these tips, in terms of setting goals around relationships, around finances, around your business. So it's not just health and wellness, it is all aspects of life mastery, essentially, is what we're going to be covering in this episode. So if you want to empower yourself in terms of achieving goals in those areas, then this is the episode for you. And it's also for those who want to accept ownership. So if you want the ability to succeed, it's up to you. It's not up to anyone else. So it's not for those that want to externalize and say that I'm not successful because of such and such. This episode is for those that know that change is going to happen and it comes from within. So this is an episode to help you create that change from within and externalize what you want. So it to essentially to come to fruition. So this is the episode for you if you really want to accept ownership for not having achieved what you wanted to in 2022, but really want to make a difference in 2023. So if you've accepted that ownership and haven't blamed anyone else, then this is the episode for you. Otherwise, you'll forever be blaming other people and letting the world know that the reason why you're not successful is because of all these external factors. But it is internally, in terms of how we make a difference externally. So this is another thing I'll be sharing with you on this episode. So let's get into the episode. So essentially, why do most people set New Year's resolutions and really don't go beyond January? Why is it? That's what we're going to answer right now. The question I ask is the goal you're setting aligned to your values, aligned to what's important to you? Or is the goal you're setting actually someone else's goal, their values injected into you? So it's something they want you to excel in or achieve. However, it's not truly who you are. It's not truly what you value. So we're going to be discussing the topic of what's important to you and making sure the goals you're setting are very much aligned to the life that you want to live as opposed to someone else's life. So this is essentially helping you to set goals in 2023 that are aligned to what's important to you, that is really authentic. It comes from within. It's not coming externally saying that such and such, you ought to, you should, you're supposed to. And that's injected values. Whereas if it's something that you desire, you love, you inspire, then that's something within. So we're going to go through in terms of how to establish what's important to you and make sure what you're setting is aligned to what's important to you and not what someone's projecting onto you or society's projecting or whatever it is, the outside influence. It's not coming from outside, it's coming from within. The other area why people don't get past January is essentially their objectives are their goals are just very vague. They're not specific. They need to be really laser sharp specific. They need to be very clear as to what you're setting out to achieve. And when they're vague, then it's just not, it doesn't have the same drive from within in order to achieve. It's got to be really specific, and it's got to be aligned to who you are, not someone else. So the other area is the unrealism around the objective. So it's a sort of a wish or a fantasy as opposed to something that's actually achievable within a year. You've probably heard that most people set objectives that are too easy to achieve in a decade, but are unrealistic to achieve within a year. So they're setting unrealistic expectations or objectives or goals in the year time frame, but then they underachieve within the decade time frame. Think about that. So essentially, if you're looking into the future, then we can set those future-oriented goals a lot more sort of because you get that compound effect. So if you achieve success or achieve your goals in 2023, then you've got more confidence, more self-belief that you can achieve more in 2024, and that compounds year on year. And so that 10-year horizon has that compounding effect of your personal growth and development, whereas that yearly horizon is just that I want it quick. I just really want it quick, but it's unrealistic. It's just not achievable. And so we're going to go through how you can set realistic goals. We also, the other area that I commonly find why people don't achieve success, they haven't sought the right level of support and they don't have the resources to achieve it. So again, it's sort of setting that unrealistic goal, because to set it realistically, you got to then start thinking about how you're going to possibly achieve it. What resources do you need? What level of support do you need to help you achieve that goal? And the other aspect of that is that accountability is someone holding them to account, that checking in with them and asking the questions of where are they at, or the person holding them as self accountable and checking in against the measures that they've set. So they've set a goal, they've set measures in which they going to, basically test their performance against, or key performance indicators. So are they on track? So they're constantly checking in on the measures. Oh, did I hit that metric? Oh, yes. If I've hit that metric, I'm on track. Oh, no, I didn't hit the metric for the month. So how does that change the rest of the goals I set for the year? Or does that mean I need to change something in order to be able to achieve more the next month and the following month? So first of all, being able to track that you're on success, you're on the path to achieving what you set out to achieve for that year. Also then checking in and reviewing and making sure you're on track. So it's that accountability of self, and then also it's good to have other people, because they might be really important to you, that mean a lot to you. Essentially, you know that they're looking in your best interest and they're asking the questions of where you're at, how you're going. It's like that boss that's checking in with, have you done this today, or how did you go over that quarter or month? It's essentially that person that checks in with you. And it's also that you checking in on you. Did you set out to achieve what you needed to do that day? Checking in, doing that review each day, each week, each month, each quarter, each half year, each year. So it's constantly checking in. Are you on track? And the other aspect is what happens if people haven't achieved success the previous year. It could be because of any of the above reasons I've mentioned. Then that self-depreciation and that limiting belief is that I can't do it. It's something that I really want, but I just don't have the capability, and they start to self-doubt themselves. And again, that can be because of a past thing that's happened and you've lacked self-belief in yourself. And so essentially it's important to dissolve that baggage, and dissolving that baggage will really enable you to be free to step forward and to start creating success. Again, the reason why you might not have achieved past success is because the goals didn't resonate to you. It was someone else's goals that you thought you'd like because you admire them, you infatuate over them. It's something within, it's an innate importance to you. We really need to make sure that you're setting goals that are really coming from within inside of you, that are authentic and aligned to your values and are really important to you. It's essentially when you're setting those goals that are someone else's, that are sort of they look good to have, or that's what everyone else is doing. It's sort of trying to fit in as opposed to standing out. That's essentially why people, all those points that I mentioned, let's recap in terms of what I mentioned. It's setting goals that are not yours. That's that first one, making sure the goals are very much aligned to who you are and what you want as opposed to someone else. It's setting vague goals and not specific goals. So you need to be really razor sharp in terms of what is it, that goal that you want to achieve. They're unrealistic. There's the other one. So that year time frame is just a wish or a fantasy as opposed to actual reality of being able to achieve it. Remember, ultimately, there's going to be some level of resource or support that you need in order to get you there. You might need to buy equipment. You might need to get team members. You might need to get someone's expert help. Again, have you factored that in? Other aspect to that is that accountability. So holding yourself to account, checking in. Have you achieved what you wanted to achieve that day, that week, that month, that quarter, that half year? Constantly checking in to make sure you're on track. And that way you can see if you're off track and then take corrective action to get yourself back on track. And I mentioned the last point was that, are you carrying a baggage? Is there something holding you back? So some limiting belief, or that lack of self-belief, or that ability to achieve. Is that fear of failure holding you back? Fear of rejection? What's holding you back? So it's important that that is addressed, because if that is not addressed, then that will continue to hold you back and continue to be a limiting belief. So let's get into tackling some of these topics that I've just mentioned, is in terms of why people don't achieve what they want to achieve. So I mentioned that topic of what's important to you, what's aligned to truly who you are as opposed to someone else. How do you find out what's truly aligned to who you are? So it's essentially then asking yourself some questions. I learnt this from Dr. John Demartini in terms of his value determinants. So you can go to his website. I'll include the link in the show notes to go to his website and actually define these values. He actually takes you through a process on how to define what's important to you. If you don't have the time to go to his website and just want some quick tips, and you're just driving and listening and you'll have to move on to the next thing of what you're doing, I can share some insight. What you want to start thinking about is what's constantly around you. What are you taking with you around you, and why are you taking that with you? So, for example, if you're carrying a mobile phone, why is that important? Is it connection with family, connection with intimate loved ones? Is that why you're carrying it? So therefore, what's important to you is intimate relationships and keeping the communication going and being able to build on that intimate relationship. That's why you have it. Or is it because you want to stay in touch with your family, and so your family is very important to you, or your children, or a loved one? Yeah, so that's why the mobile phone might be very close to you at all times. Or is it because of your work? So your work is very important to you. Your vocation, that's very important to you. So what is it about the mobile phone that's why you value it and why it's constantly with you? So that, again, it's sort of listing 3 areas of why is that with you? So that's in terms of what's in that close proximity most of the time for you. And why is it in close proximity? So for me, it's my computer, my phone, and probably my gym clothes. And essentially my values are what I do. So it's enlightening your wellbeing, my vocation, empowering you, helping you with your health. I also value my own health. That's an important value to me, hence the joggers or the fitness gear that's constantly on me. I'm always moving. I love walking. I love doing walking and talking meetings. Now, the other thing is the computer to do this recording, for example. So the computer is my vocation. It's the way in which I can help you and empower you. It's a way in which I look up the latest evidence-based research on a particular area and staying ahead in my field that I love, which is health and wellness. That's essentially why I carry a mobile phone and our computers within close proximity, and I've got my gym clothes. It's also my mobile phone is to keep in touch with my family. So that's another important value of mine is my family, my health, other people's health. So that's pretty much the three areas that are articulated when that possession is close to me. That's why it's close to me. Then you want to look at how you're spending your time. So what are you spending your time doing? So what are you doing most of the time? So for me, I'm doing this. I'm recording episodes for you. And so it's essentially a delight for me to be doing this for you. This is essentially why I'm doing this episode, and it's because I want to enhance you and want to help you achieve success in 2023. That's essentially how I spend my time, is producing content, consulting with clients, so seeing them, helping them with their health and well-being. I spend time with my family when I'm not doing or not helping my clients. I'm with my family. So how are you spending your time is the other thing. What else? What else is there? So it's what you, in terms of, think about, okay? It's what you think about in terms of that internal dialogue. So what keeps coming up in terms of what brings that inspiration, that thing that you truly just love spending time doing, and what keeps popping up in your mind, internalizing? What are the three aspects of what keeps you ticking over your mind in terms of what inspires you, not what brings you down, what lifts you up, what brings vitality to you? What are you thinking about? What problem are you solving? What area it in? The other thing is what you externalize. So in terms of when you're talking to people, what topic of conversations or topics of conversations do they bring up? How's your family? And then you light up. You can't stop talking about your family. Or is it they bring up, oh, what do you do for work? And then you just light up and keep talking and keep talking. Or what is it in conversation that you'd like to draw conversation to in order to get involved? So where are you an extrovert in your life? I'm an extrovert when I'm talking about health and well-being. I'm an introvert in other aspects that I'm not interested in, right? If people are talking about food, I'm interested in food from a health perspective, but not from an enjoyment perspective. I more see food as something that I use as fuel to fuel my energy to give to you and to empower you, as opposed to living to eat. I eat to live. So food's not going to do it for me. If people are talking about food or talking about parties or dancing or stuff like that, that's when I become introverted. So when are you extroverted in that conversation? When do you just light up and people just can't shut you up, so to speak? The other area is where you most disciplined. So where you very reliable and you don't need anyone to ask you to do it. You just do it. It's spontaneous. It comes from within. You don't need any external motivation. The motivation's within. So where is it that you are spontaneously acting from within and just do it? For me, no one needs to tell me to exercise. I just find the time in the day to do it because I love exercising. So where is it in your life that you don't need any motivation? No one needs to tell you to do it, or they don't need to give you money or incentivize you to do it. Where is it you are motivated within and so disciplined? You're reliable, you're on time. So I'm always on time to my health appointments, to my gym sessions, never miss a beat. And I'm always on time for my clients. I'm always setting aside time, and I'm very reliable in terms of getting out a podcast every week. I don't miss a week. And this is going to be a bonus episode. So I'm actually going beyond my call of duty. I'm actually delivering this as a bonus episode. So I don't need any motivation to do this podcasting because it's aligned to my mission, which is to enhance and enlighten the well-being of others. So where do you have this spontaneity and this self-discipline this reliability, this organization. It just happens. No one needs to motivate you. So think about where areas. So like the same with me and my family, I'll always there for my family when they need me, or they say, can you come to this awards celebration? I was just at one of my daughter's awards celebration today, and I was there and I really enjoyed being there because my family is important to me. So where you're most disciplined, reliable, focused, and you love being there, right? You spontaneously just want to be there. The other aspect is where you spend your money. So besides the necessities of living, such as a shelter and food to eat, where you're spending that discretionary income. For me, I invest in my business because my vocation is very important to me. I buy equipment, audio equipment to do podcasting. I invest in that. I invest in software to help get it out to people. I pay people to help promote this episode. That's where I'm spending money. I also want to create wealth for my family, so I'm investing it wisely, and I really hold back on unnecessary spending, such as I don't like buying material possessions that I'm not going to use, such as expensive cars or whatever. That doesn't align to my values. So what's aligned to my values is spending on my health. I spend a lot of money on my health. I spend a lot of money on my family's health, and I spend a lot of money for my business to help others. So on subscriptions. So my podcast, I'm paying a subscription to record this podcast is on a software platform. So again, that's where I'm spending money. So where are you spending your money? That is an area that is important to you. And also, where you're setting goals that are actually coming to fruition. So you're actually setting goals and you're making progress in that area. So it's not setting those goals that you don't achieve. It's setting the goals that you actually can see coming to fruition. There's some external expression of that goal coming to reality. So where is that? Where are you setting your goals and they're actually coming true and you're making progress? That's another area that's important to you, okay? The goals that are aligned to what's important to you, you'll actually do. The goals that are from external to you, that are injected in upon you, that you allow to be injected upon you, are someone else's goals. And they're the ones you procrastinate, you hesitate, and you get frustrated over because they're not aligned to who you are. They're not aligned to what's important to you. It's essentially where you're setting goals that you're actually seeing evidence that it's coming true. You're actually realizing it. That's the area that's important to you because you're doing it and you're doing it on your own free will. No one needs to motivate you. It's coming from within. Again, I've just shared how you could do it, and I've shared this in terms of an articulation over audio. There's going to be a video recording of this, but go to the value determinants on Dr. Demartini's website, drdemartini.com/values, and he will walk you through it in a much better way. And you actually get a printout, a scorecard, and it really articulates clearly what is important to you. Then that is the starting point to setting your goals, okay? So that's the very most important thing. So you are setting goals that are aligned to what's important to you as opposed to what's important to someone else, okay? That's the key. So setting things that are aligned to you. Now, when you set these goals, they need to be laser focused. They can't be just sort of nice to have. So, I want a red shiny car. Okay, I want a new car. You need to be very specific. What sort of car do you want? Okay, because as you know, with a brand, it's a brand label, but then what specific model do you want? Okay, and then of that model, what is it, the features that you want to take, so be very specific, break it down into very detailed form of what it is that you actually want. For example, with a relationship, if you just say, I just want a relationship, then that's not going to attract the person that you're looking for. You want to tune in the reticular activating system of your brain, which needs you to set very specific and laser sharp goals. So you need to put the detail in there so your reticular activating system switches on. When I was looking for a Mazda, I wasn't looking for any Mazda. It was the CX-5, okay? And I was looking for certain features on the CX-5. And when I set that goal, I started seeing them drive everywhere on the streets around where I live. And you think, oh, everyone's driving a CX-5. It's just that you switched on your reticular activating system in your brain that is now looking for that for you. So if you set specific things in terms of detail around what you want in a relationship, what's important to you, then you'll start to come across those people, okay? As opposed to just saying, I want a relationship. Well, you're going to attract the wrong type of a relationship by just having it so broad. So be very specific in terms of what is it that you want in the relationship? What is it that you want in terms of for your business? Okay, you want to achieve revenue growth. In which area do you want to achieve the revenue growth? What products do you need to sell or services do you want to be selling to achieve that revenue growth? So be very specific. And then it's essentially how many of those products, which we'll get into a bit more detail in this episode, but it's essentially if you want to, well, actually, I'll share it now. Okay, I'm on the topic. So essentially, you want to achieve an extra 100,000 revenue in your business or 100,000 increase in salary, whatever it may be, then you need to break that down into specific detail and map it out as a plan in order to achieve it. So what is it? If you want to achieve that within a year, then you want to break it down to what do you need to hit at sort of every quarter, essentially. So what do you need to hit quarter 4, quarter 3, quarter 2, quarter 1? And then you want to break it down into each month, each day. Okay, what activities do you need to do that each day in order to hit that end goal? So it's really, if you want to achieve 100,000, then every quarter you need to be bringing in 25,000, realizing that there might need to be a build up. So if you're selling widgets, you need a lead up in order to start selling 20,000 a month. Okay, so there's going to be that first month's not going to be at 25,000. So then that adds for the remaining 9 months of the year. If you're looking in quarters, then essentially you've got this build up, you've only achieved 12,500, then that adds another 12,500 to subsequent months. So that you need to start factoring in that run rate, that ramp up. So be realistic as to, okay, I need to start marketing this widget. I can't just assume that I can do 100,000 and then each quarter I'm going to be hitting 25,000. Essentially what it's going to be is more backloaded towards the end of the year, because you're going to have a campaign, a marketing campaign, in order to let people know about the widget, and then then the sales will come in, and then so there's going to be a much greater. So essentially, you might have 3 months of campaign. So therefore, you need to achieve the 100,000 in the remaining 9 months of the year. And do you have the supply chain in order to be able to meet that really ramp up in demand of that widget? Okay, so it's then looking at the resources, and do you have the contracts in place in order to engage these firms and them to be able to scale with you? If you factor these sort of things and plan like this, then you're more likely to achieve success, and there'll be less. I mean, of course, there'll be problems encountered that if you didn't plan it out well, but there'll be less problems encountered if you start doing this sort of level of planning and this detail behind the planning. So really start breaking it down and defining the resources, the support that you need in order to be able to deliver an extra $100,000 in certain X widgets, right? And then you can start prepping the supply chain and getting them ready and letting them know in advance so that they've actually got the material there for you. And if you start setting up all the resources, the support that you need, and getting the marketing team aligned and getting them to run a certain campaign that's going to bring in a certain level of revenue, getting the sales team aligned. Again, it's this whole project management. And the thing is, most people spend this sort of level of detail working on holidays and mapping out their holidays, but they don't do it for their own life. And hence why their lives are generally miserable, and they're only happy on holidays because the holidays are well planned. If you plan out your life, it will come to fruition and you'll live an inspired life, provided it's linked to your values and what's important to you. So be really laser specific in terms of what you want, and then work backwards as to how you're going to bring about. And again, I've covered 2 areas in one area. So I mentioned be laser specific, but now I'm tapping into the support and resources you need to achieve that goal. and that accountability. So how do you know if you're on track? So if you've mapped out your resources, you've factored in a 3-month campaign, the sales are going to be backloaded in the last 9 months, and it will be still a ramp up unless you run an incredible marketing campaign. You need to hit. So again, if we look at the 100,000, it's broken evenly in terms of 25,000 a quarter. However, if you don't achieve anything in the first quarter, then it's basically 33,000 for the remaining quarters. And again, that might need to be ramped up unless you have this amazing marketing campaign that will bring in X number of sales based on your conversion history. So if you know your sales conversion history, you might be able to work out you can achieve this run rate in the second quarter and then remain that run rate for the rest of the year. This is the sort of planning you need to do. And this planning really brings out great energy, provided it's aligned to your values. It brings vitality when you're working on the planning, because it's you achieving your aspirations that are aligned to your inspiration in terms of what's important to you. So if you don't like planning, it's probably because you're, again, working on an area that's an external goal and not something that's really important from within. Yes, I hope that helps in terms of being laser specific and really breaking down the detail around the goal, and then breaking it down as to what actions do you need to do daily and what level of support and resources do you need on a daily basis, so that you can start performing those daily activities and then have that check-in, that accountability of self, that you're actually on track. And if you're not on track, then what can you do differently to get you back on track? Okay, so sort of covered the realistic goals as well in this sort of thing, because I've said, well, you need to look at what you want to achieve in a year and then break it down into a daily action. Again, if you look at that daily task and think, well, that's impossible based on how much my widget costs, I need to be selling this much per day by such and such, that's probably unrealistic in terms of it would require me winning the lottery or, some luck in order to get there. Then you know that you cannot achieve. It's not realistic. So maybe that 100,000 is think, well, yeah, next year it might be more realistic to achieve 75,000. But based on that, then the following year I'll be achieving maybe a whole lot more. The run rate's so high that I'm achieving 150,000 the following year. So if you really look at what you want to achieve in the year and then break down in terms of what you have to do to achieve that on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis, half-year basis, then it's more likely you're going to see if it's realistic, and requires investment. So you might, have to invest in terms of, engaging a sales department or engaging resources, equipment. And again, you need to look at whether you can manage that investment, or is investment you need to spread over 2 years. The goal's more realistic over 2 years because you'll have the resources to invest, or the supply chain's just not there or capable of hitting your 100,000 sales target based on X number of widgets sold. It's just not there. It needs time to build up. So therefore, it might be more realistic based on the supply chain or the supply chain limitations that you set it over a maybe 18-month period. So again, if you really want that goal because it's desirable and it's desirable from within, then you're going to spend the time mapping it out and planning it out like a project. It's a project like you would do when you go traveling. You obviously got your destination, then you're thinking about what you're going to do, what places you're going to see, how you're going to get there, where you're going to stay. All these sort of things you'll start planning out. And then what happens if, you'll start thinking about connecting flights. Do we have enough time to make it? Or maybe that's unrealistic. So therefore, allow a bit more time for the connection so I actually make that flight and don't miss it. They're the sort of things that you want to be planning into your life on areas that are important to you. So that's pretty much, I'm going to cover on the dissolving the old baggage just after my commercial. Okay, so what I would like to share with you is a program that I'm running next year. So next year I'm running the me&my resolution solution program, which is a 12-month program. If you've listened to this much of the episode, it's obviously something that you want for next year. You want to achieve something. What would it be like to work with like-minded people that also really want to achieve success in 2023. I'm creating a program to bring like-minded people together to actually work on these goals and to plan them out. And we're going to go through each step of what I shared at the beginning as to what typically goes wrong. We're actually going to create a plan so it doesn't go wrong. And there's going to be the support and guidance provided by me. And it's throughout the year. So essentially, we do quarterly workshops. So every quarter, we'll be doing a workshop and setting goals for that quarter. Every 2 weeks, we'll be checking in with one another and holding each other accountable and supporting one another and making sure that you're on track to achieve that quarter goal. The quarter workshop is essentially a mapping out the plan. The very first workshop is mapping it out for the year and then breaking it down into quarters. And then each quarter we work through that quarter and make sure we're going to achieve the quarterly goals in order to achieve the 12-month goal. In addition to that, I'm going to be providing education in terms of how to dissolve that old baggage so that you can move forward. You're going to be learning the Dietetic method process, which is essentially a process that's going to help you see life in a perspective that's really evolutionary in terms of thinking. So it's essentially to see things as they are, to see things with balance and order, and to have grace and love for everything that comes into your life and everything that's happened in your life. So essentially, I'm going to be taking you through that process. I'm a trained facilitator in the Dietetic method, and it's essentially going to give you this ability to get on track and then to be able to see things as on the way as opposed to in the way. Okay, so anything that happens, you'll see it, okay, it's meant to happen, right? I can see how it's there to serve me, to get me back to being who I am, to get me back on track and back on mission, as opposed to seeing it as in the way and blaming and externalizing why you're not achieving things. So it's going to help you better navigate life, better have that mastery over life in all aspects of life. So I'll be teaching you that method throughout the 12 months. You'll be able to then be well trained in terms of being able to apply that with ongoing. So essentially, it's asking the right questions to see things in perspective, to see things not subjective, but to have a balanced perspective of what's happened and to see how it serves you. Or if it's you're elated and you can't see the downside, then it's looking at it so you see the whole and you actually get full consciousness over what's just happened, as opposed to a subjective bias read on what's happened and missing elements and thinking, well, it just seems too good to be true. And yes, it's too good to be true because you've only seen it one-sided. I'm going to help you see the whole thing in terms of that event. So this is from the Dietetic Institute, which I'm trained in as a facilitator. I'm going to pass on that training to help you dissolve the old baggage, to help tool you up so you're empowered to go forward with this tool into your life and you can help loved ones with it. So we're going to be doing that on the mind component. So you'll be empowered in this new way of seeing things, new perspective. And it's essentially, it's based on science. So it works. I've applied it to my life. It absolutely works. And it really resonates with me. I work with my clients on it and I get profound impact with my clients and helping them to see the grace in what's happened, as opposed to thinking that they're a victim and holding that victim mentality, which essentially holds them back and they carry that baggage for the rest of their life. So it's really good if you're someone that's emotionally or highly volatile. This will essentially help you better manage your emotions and better see things, as I said, as on the way as opposed to in the way. So that's something you're going to be learning along the 12-month program, as well as you're going to be learning about different aspects of health and well-being. So we'll be going to be covering nutrition, sleep, stress management, movement. So we're going to be covering all aspects of health and well-being in the program each quarter and be empowering you in health and well-being, empowering you in asking better questions of yourself, because as you know, the quality of your life is dependent on the quality of questions you ask yourself. So ask better questions, you improve your life. So essentially that questioning methodology I'll be sharing with you, imparting that knowledge and wisdom. We'll be dissolving any baggage or any limiting beliefs that are holding you back throughout the program. We're going to be supporting one another and with this like-minded community, and checking in on how we're going towards the goals and making sure everyone's staying on track to achieve what they want to achieve for 2023. There's more information in the show notes, so go to the show notes. You'll be able to book a session with me to have a chat to see whether this is the right program for you. I'm limited to the numbers I can facilitate, and I want to make sure the right people are in the room so that we all get the best results. So I'd love you to book in a session to have a chat with me to find out more. I've got the early bird offer available, which is an incredible 35% discount to the recommended retail price. It's a huge offer that's available to the end of the 31st of December. I suggest if this is something that's resonating with you, that you go into the show notes, click on the link, and book a session to chat with me to see whether it's the right option. I wanted to share that with you. And then also I want to then pass on what you could do now to start thinking about dissolving that old baggage. So in terms of what is it that's holding you back? So what is taking up time and space in your mind? What are you constantly thinking about that's really irritating you and is frustrating you and bringing out the emotions in you? So what is it there? Is it something that you're resenting that someone's done? Or is it someone that you compare yourself to and put them up on a pedestal, put yourself in a pit, and hence you admire them and you don't see what's in them is in you? Hence you're essentially disowning something that's within you. So what is it that you're admiring others and you're essentially holding yourself back because you don't see the self-worth in yourself, because you're comparing yourself to them as opposed to comparing themselves to the best version of you? So is there someone that you're admiring or resenting? Now, in terms of that admiration or resentment, what is it? What trait, what physical trait is it? Is it a physical feature of them that you're admiring or you're resenting? Write that down. Or is it an action that they've done towards you, or is something they haven't done that you're expecting them to do towards you? So be very clear as to what is it that you're resenting. And again, you need to list, because it won't be just one thing. There'll be a number of things that is coming up in terms of what action or inaction did they do to you that you don't like or dislike, or that you like and you're then comparing yourself to them, and that's holding you back, because obviously you can be the best version of you, but you'll always be second best to be them. So that's essentially whatever we're projecting. Like if we're projecting blame or credit on someone else, it's something that we're disowning in ourselves. So if it's something you resent about someone else, essentially it's a disowned part within you and you're projecting it on them. And it's actually, when you point your finger, there's three fingers pointing back at you, right? There's one finger pointing at them, there's three fingers back at you. So this is a self-reflection exercise that you're doing here. And it's saying, okay, I don't like how, in terms of what they said to me. So you don't like the fact that they essentially were putting you down. They were making you less of, or, making you feel inferior, and essentially in terms of how they spoke to you. So if that's the case, then it's self-reflecting, looking within. When have you done that to someone else in your life? And start thinking of when it was, where were you, who you did it to, and who was observing that. There might have been no observer, again, but it's who, or it's when, where, who, and whom observed it. You're listing that down. So you're actually finding when you've done it. So you're starting to own that projection that you're projecting on others that's coming back at you, or that it's making you emotional. It's because it's something you haven't owned within you. And essentially you're not being authentic to who you are. And so you start listing down the number of times where, when, who you did it to, if anyone was observing it, and you just list that down. And then you'll find, as you start listing it down, thinking, yes, I put people down just as much as that person has done it to me. And you get it to its balanced, okay? So you'll feel the change within. Essentially, you'll feel a tear of gratitude once you've balanced it. again, you don't want to go beyond that tier of gratitude because it's imbalance. It's then you start having shame on yourself and thinking, I do it more than them. And that's what we don't want. Essentially, we want to get it to you see grace in what's happened. And essentially, that person was just getting you to be you, opposed to you just seeing one side of them and only seeing one side of yourself. So now you're seeing both sides of them and you're seeing both sides of yourself. And essentially, you're owning what they've done to you, and it's within you, and you're owning that other side of you that you're in denial or you're disowning. So it's so hence you're integrating you, and hence becoming authentic and becoming the best version of you, because you're loving the whole of you, as opposed to, and again, you're loving the other person too, because what they're doing is helping you love you. So then you can see the grace in what they did and have more love for them, because you can see that they served you, and in the fact that you can now love yourself more and truly be you and own. Not only you can own the traits of the greats, and essentially, again, you can do this in terms of the admiration aspect. So what is it that you disowning in yourself and you're admiring in others? So what is it that you admire in them, in terms of maybe it's the way they can articulate a message? So then it's looking where you articulate messages really well. So they may articulate messages really well in the field of healthcare. They just simplify it so well, I just get it. Okay, where in your life are you articulating and people really get what you're communicating? Where is it? And it's going to be in a different form, but you're just not honoring it. So I want you to honor what you admire in them in yourself. Okay, so again, the admiration, what is it that they do? Start looking within and finding it within yourself. And it's probably you articulating communication in your family. You're really good getting your family, communicating to your family your needs, and they understand where you're coming from, and you have a deep connection with your family because you're really good at that communication in the area of family. Again, it might not be in health, but what's important to you is your family, and it's more important than your health. Hence why you have it in the form of your family and not in the form of health. But now you're admiring that you do have the trait. You've found it within you. And again, it's finding it. Where else is it within you that you really communicate clearly and precisely so that the other party understands? Again, it might be in the area of your vocation or in the area of your finances. So again, it's just looking at where you start to look for where you own that trait of the great or that person you admire. Okay. So again, this is a self-reflection exercise. And look, if you don't do this exercise, essentially what resists persists. So you'll keep running into these people that will keep reminding you that you're disowning something, a part of you, and you're projecting this disowned part on them, but you're not looking at the three fingers that are pointing back at you and thinking you need to honor it in yourself or own it in yourself so that you can then be truly authentic as to who you are and love the whole you, as opposed to just loving one side of you. And again, this is going to help with the relationship with them, because you can see how what they've done has served you, and therefore it helps deepen the connection with them, because you know they've got two sides, you've got two sides, and you can love the person for who they are, and you can love yourself for who you are, as opposed to just loving one side and expecting them to behave according to what you value as opposed to what's important to them, and expecting them to live outside of their values and live in your values. Well, that's essentially not honoring who they are. Okay, so essentially, if we all honor who we are and live by what's truly important to us and set goals to what's important to us, we can live a very inspired and a life that's authentic and aligned to our values, and the world that will then see the best version of us. And essentially, that's what I'm doing in this work that I'm sharing. So I hope this has been of value to you. If you've really enjoyed this episode, please like and share it with others so that they can then improve in terms of getting the success that they want in 2023. If you want more help in this area, then inquire about the program that I just shared with you that I'm running next year. And it's the early birds offer is available to the 31st of December, and it's at a massive 35% discount. Check in with me, see if it's the right program for you, find out more details. If it is, then great, we can work together. If it's not, then that's good too, because you're essentially not wasting your money. And again, I'll get the most suited people in the room to get the best results. Otherwise, as you know, if you don't have that cohesion in the room, it doesn't work. So essentially, it is a bit of a filtering process, but again, it's create a win-win situation so that you get the best return on your investment. And that's essentially what I want, is that you actually get the results that you want, is my ultimate outcome from this. So please book in a session with you if it's something that's resonated with you. If not, enjoy the next episodes. There's lots of episodes coming on the Me&my Health Up podcast. And thank you for tuning in today for another insightful episode. Really appreciate your support. Have a fantastic holiday period. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you'll enjoy a few days off if you celebrate Christmas in the Northern Hemisphere. And for all, have a great start to the new year. And I really, truly wish that you achieve everything that you aspire. And again, make sure that aspiration is aligned to your inspirations, what you truly value and what's important to you. And then you'll have the best 2023. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Podcast disclaimer. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions or statements within it do not constitute medical, healthcare or professional advice and are provided for general information purposes only. All care is taken in the preparation of the information in this podcast. Connected Wellness Proprietary Limited, operating under the brand Me&my Health Up, does not make any representations or give any warranties about its accuracy, reliability, completeness, or suitability for any particular purpose. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions, or statements within it are not to be used as a substitute for professional, medical, psychological, psychiatric, or any other mental health care or healthcare in general. Me&my Health Up recommends you seek the advice of a doctor or qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Inform your doctor of any changes that you may to your lifestyle and discuss these with your doctor. Do not disregard medical advice or delay visiting a medical professional because of something you hear in this podcast. This podcast has been carefully prepared on the basis of current information. Changes in circumstances after publication may affect the accuracy of this information. To the maximum extent permitted by the law, Me&my Health Up disclaims any such representations or warranties to the completeness, accuracy, merchantability, or fitness for purpose of this podcast and will not be liable for any expenses, losses, damages incurred, indirect or consequential damages or costs that may be incurred as a result of the information being inaccurate or incomplete in any way and for any reason. No part of this podcast can be reproduced, redistributed, published, copied, or duplicated in a form without prior permission of Me&my Health Up.